Picture this. You wake up one morning to find a handwritten note from your partner. It's short, just a few lines, but it cuts deep. Maybe it's a complaint, a frustration, or worse, a goodbye. Your stomach drops, your heart races. Now, what do? Do you panic? Do you lash out? Or do you pause, take a breath, and respond with clarity instead of chaos? This is where Stoicism steps in, not to turn you into an emotionless robot, but to give you the tools to navigate love's storms with wisdom and strength. Stoicism isn't about burying your feelings or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's about mastering your emotions so they don't master you. Imagine facing heartbreak, jealousy, or even the daily friction of relationships without crumbling, without losing yourself in the chaos. That's the power of a Stoic mindset in love. In this video, we'll explore 25 Stoic principles that can transform how you love. These aren't just theories, they're battle-tested tools used by ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus to build relationships that endure not through luck but through deliberate practice. You'll learn how to choose love actively, not just feel it passively, how to turn conflicts into mirrors for self-growth, how to love deeply without clinging desperately. By the end, you'll have a toolkit to lead in love, not with control, but with courage, clarity, and unshakable resilience, ready to rethink how you love. Let's begin. Now, let's dive into the first mindset: love as a choice, not just a feeling. Here's the truth about love that most people miss. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you decide every single day. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They saw love as an action, a commitment, not just a fleeting emotion that comes and goes like the weather. Think about Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Even with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, he wrote deeply personal letters to his wife, expressing not just affection but a conscious dedication to their bond. He didn't rely on butterflies in his stomach to keep his love alive. Instead, he chose it actively, deliberately, especially when times were hard. That's the power of this mindset. When love feels difficult, when arguments flare or distance grows, it's easy to mistake the struggle for a sign that something's wrong. But the Stoics would say that's when love matters most. Choosing to stay present, to listen, to forgive, that's what builds relationships that last. It's not about ignoring your feelings, it's about not letting them steer the ship. So ask yourself, are you waiting for love to feel easy, or are you willing to choose it even when it's not? Because that's the difference between a love that fades and a love that endures. And with that foundation, let's move to the next mindset, where we'll explore how focusing on what you can control transforms your relationships. Now, let's shift our focus to something that can completely change how you experience love: the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. Here's the hard but freeing truth: you can't control your partner's actions, their moods, or even how they feel about you. But you can control how you respond, how you show up, and the energy you bring to the relationship. That's the heart of the Stoic dichotomy of control. Think about it this way: when you spend your energy worrying whether your partner will text back, whether they're upset with you, or whether they'll meet your expectations, you're handing over your peace of mind to something outside your power. And that's a recipe for frustration. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, while freedom comes from mastering what's truly yours: your thoughts, your actions, your attitude. Imagine a disagreement where your partner says something hurtful. You can't control their words, but you can control whether you react with anger or respond with patience. You can't force them to apologize, but you can choose whether to hold onto resentment or let it go. This mindset doesn't mean you ignore problems, it means you approach them with clarity, not chaos. The beauty of this practice: it takes the pressure off your relationship. Instead of demanding that your partner act a certain way to make you happy, you take responsibility for your own happiness. That's how you build a love that's resilient, not fragile. So the next time you feel anxious about something your partner did or didn't do, ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, redirect that energy inward, because the more you master your own responses, the more peace you'll bring to your love life. And with that shift in perspective, let's move to the next mindset, where we'll explore how embracing challenges in love can actually make it stronger. Now, let's step into a mindset that might feel counterintuitive at first, but holds the key to transforming love's toughest moments: Amor Fati, the Stoic practice of loving your fate. Picture this: instead of resisting the inevitable struggles in your relationship, arguments, misunderstandings, even periods of distance, what if you saw them as necessary fuel for growth? That's Amor Fati in action. It's not about pretending hardships don't hurt. It's about trusting they're shaping you into someone capable of deeper love. Take Marcus Aurelius, who faced betrayal and political turmoil yet wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When his wife Faustina was rumored to be unfaithful, he didn't lash out or crumble. He chose to see the situation as a test of his own virtue, focusing on his response rather than her actions. By embracing the challenge, he strengthened his patience and integrity. Or consider Epictetus, born into slavery, who taught that our power lies not in changing circumstances but in refining our perspective. He'd say a long-distance relationship isn't just a test of loyalty, it's a masterclass in trust and creativity. A heated argument isn't just pain, it's a mirror revealing where you both need to grow. Here's how to practice this today. When tension arises, pause and ask, what is this moment teaching me? Maybe distance is training you to communicate more thoughtfully. Maybe a conflict is revealing an insecurity you can now address. Amor Fati turns obstacles into opportunities, not by magic but by mindset. And with that shift, we're ready to explore another tool the Stoics used to prepare their hearts for life's uncertainties. Now, let's turn to a mindset that might seem unsettling at first, but is actually one of the most practical tools Stoicism offers: Premeditatio Malorum, the practice of anticipating challenges before they happen. Think of it as mental armor for love. While toxic positivity tells you to just stay positive and ignore potential problems, Stoicism takes a different approach. It asks you to face the uncomfortable truths head-on, not to dwell on fear, but to build resilience. Imagine this: instead of being blindsided by a breakup or betrayal, you've already visualized it in your mind. Not to dwell on the pain, but to prepare for it. Seneca put it this way: what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. By mentally rehearsing hardships like a partner growing distant or trust being broken, you strip them of their power to shock you. You're not inviting these events, you're simply readying yourself to meet them with clarity if they ever arise. Here's the key difference between this and toxic positivity. Stoicism doesn't deny the reality of suffering. It doesn't say, just think happy thoughts and everything will be fine. Instead, it says, life is unpredictable, love is fragile, but you can choose how you respond. When you practice Premeditatio Malorum, you're not expecting the worst, you're refusing to let the worst control you. Try this exercise. Set aside 5 minutes to quietly consider one challenge your relationship could face. Maybe it's a sudden job loss, a health crisis, or even infidelity. Ask yourself, how would I handle this with dignity? What virtues would I need to call on? By doing this, you're not manifesting disaster, you're building emotional muscle memory for grace under pressure. And with that preparation in place, we're ready to explore another mindset that shifts how we hold onto love itself. Now, let's shift our focus to a mindset that might feel counterintuitive in love: detaching from outcomes. At first glance, it sounds cold, but Stoicism teaches us something profound here. It's not about caring less, it's about clinging less. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it simply: some things are up to us and some are not. Love, in many ways, falls into both categories. You can control how you love, your kindness, your honesty, your patience, but you can't control whether someone loves you back, stays faithful, or meets your expectations. That's the heart of this mindset. Stoics call it indifference to outcomes, but don't mistake it for apathy. It's about pouring your energy into what you can influence, your own actions, and releasing your grip on the rest. Think of it like planting a tree. You water it, give it sunlight, protect it from pests, but you can't force it to grow. If you spend all day stressing over whether it'll bear fruit, you'll miss the joy of tending to it. Love works the same way. Pour yourself into being a good partner, but don't tie your peace to the result. Epictetus warned, "Demand not that events should happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." Here's the freedom in this mindset. When you stop measuring love by outcomes, whether they text back, whether the relationship lasts, you start valuing it for what it is. A chance to practice virtue, to grow, to connect. Even if a relationship ends, that doesn't erase the goodness you brought to it. So try this reframe. Next time you catch yourself overthinking how someone feels about you, ask, am I acting with integrity? Am I loving well? If the answer is yes, that's enough. The rest isn't yours to command. And with that clarity, we're ready to explore how Stoics turn even conflicts into mirrors for self-improvement now. Let's step into a mindset that transforms how we handle conflict, seeing your partner as a mirror. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, often reminded us that the faults we notice in others are often reflections of our own unresolved struggles. Think about it. When something your partner does irritates you, that reaction says as much about you as it does about them. This isn't about blaming yourself for every disagreement. It's about recognizing that relationships act like mirrors, showing us where we might need to grow. For example, if you're quick to anger when your partner seems distracted, ask yourself, do I also fear being ignored? Am I guilty of the same thing sometimes? These moments of friction aren't just obstacles, they're invitations to self-awareness. Here's how to put this into practice. Next time a conflict arises, pause and journal your answers to these questions. What exactly bothered me about their behavior? Have I ever acted similarly? What does this reveal about my own insecurities or blind spots? This simple exercise shifts the focus from blame to growth. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." When we stop seeing conflicts as attacks and start viewing them as lessons, we take the sting out of arguments. Instead of reacting defensively, we respond with curiosity, asking, "What can I learn here?" By embracing this mindset, you'll find that even the toughest disagreements become opportunities to strengthen not just your relationship, but your character. And with that insight, we're ready to explore how Stoics use the awareness of life's brevity to deepen love in ways you might not expect. Now, let's turn to a mindset that might seem somber at first, but holds incredible power to transform love. Memento Mori, the Stoic practice of remembering life's brevity. At its core, this isn't about dwelling on fear or sadness. It's about using the awareness of time's limits to sharpen our appreciation for the people we cherish. Imagine waking up every day with the thought, this could be my last moment with them, not to paralyze you, but to awaken you, to the way they laugh, the way their hand feels in yours, even the way they leave dishes in the sink. The Stoics weren't morbid, they were practical. Marcus Aurelius wrote nightly reflections on gratitude, asking himself, have I truly seen my loved ones today? Or have I been too distracted by petty grievances? That's the gift of Memento Mori. It strips away the trivial and forces us to confront what matters. When you start seeing your partner through this lens, minor annoyances fade. Suddenly, their quirks become endearing, their presence a gift you're lucky to witness. Here's how to bring this into your relationship. Try a simple evening ritual before bed. Take 2 minutes to mentally replay one moment with your partner that day, a shared smile, a small act of kindness, and silently thank them for it. No grand gestures needed. This practice trains your mind to spot and savor the ordinary magic you might otherwise overlook. And here's the paradox: by accepting that love is fleeting, you learn to hold it more deeply. The Stoics knew that impermanence doesn't diminish love, it intensifies it. When you stop taking your partner for granted, every ordinary day together becomes extraordinary. With this mindset grounding us, we're ready to explore how Stoics turn even the biggest relationship obstacles into unexpected advantages. Now, let's shift our focus to a mindset that flips the script on relationship challenges. The obstacle is the way. This powerful Stoic idea, popularized by Ryan Holiday, teaches us that the very things we see as barriers in love can actually become the tools that strengthen it. Think about long-distance relationships, for example. Most people view the distance as a deal breaker, but Stoics would ask, what if it's an opportunity? When you're forced to communicate more intentionally, to trust deeply, and to cherish the moments you do have, the obstacle becomes the training ground for a stronger bond. Modern couples navigating long distance often report that the separation taught them patience, creativity in staying connected, and a deeper appreciation for the time they share. The obstacle didn't break them, it refined them. Or take financial stress, another common relationship hurdle. Instead of letting money struggles breed resentment, Stoics would see it as a chance to practice teamwork, frugality, and gratitude for non-material joys. Couples who face this challenge head-on often emerge with a clearer sense of shared values and priorities. Here's the key: Stoics don't just endure obstacles, they use them. When you hit a rough patch in your relationship, ask yourself, what skill could this teach me? What virtue could it strengthen? Maybe an argument reveals where you need to practice listening. Maybe a betrayal forces you to define your boundaries. The obstacle isn't just in the way, it is the way forward. And with that perspective in mind, we're ready to explore another mindset that transforms how we love, this time by redefining what it means to truly belong to one another. Now, let's turn to a mindset that challenges one of the most common traps in relationships: the idea of ownership. Stoic love isn't about possession, it's about partnership. Think about how often we hear phrases like, "you're mine," or "I need you to be this way for me." That's possessive love, and it's rooted in fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of not being enough. But Stoicism flips that script. Musonius Rufus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it plainly: marriage should be a partnership of equals where neither person dominates or controls the other. Imagine a relationship where love isn't about clinging tightly, but about holding space, where you celebrate your partner's freedom instead of restricting it. That's Stoic love in action. Consider how possessive love plays out in everyday life. Maybe you felt jealous when your partner spends time with friends, or anxious when they pursue a passion that doesn't involve you. Stoicism asks why, if love is real, it doesn't need chains. A healthy relationship thrives on trust, not control. When you respect your partner's autonomy, you're not just loving them, you're trusting yourself. Here's the shift: instead of asking, "How can I make them stay?" ask, "How can I be someone worth staying for?" That's the Stoic difference. Love without ownership means choosing each other daily, not out of obligation, but because you genuinely value who the other person is, flaws, dreams, and all. And this brings us to another mindset, one that builds on this foundation of respect and trust. Now, let's explore a mindset that turns pain into power: emotional resilience. Heartbreak, rejection, or loss can feel like the end of the world, but Stoicism offers tools to navigate these storms without drowning in despair. Take negative visualization, for example. It's not about pessimism, it's about preparation. Imagine for a moment the worst-case scenario: your partner leaves or a relationship ends. Sit with that thought, not to torture yourself, but to realize something profound: you'd still be standing. You'd still have your character, your values, your ability to choose how you respond. That's the Stoic armor against heartbreak. Consider Cato the Younger, a Stoic who faced crushing personal losses yet never crumbled. When his beloved brother died, Cato mourned, but he didn't let grief consume him. Instead, he channeled it into living more virtuously. That's the key. Pain isn't the enemy. It's the teacher. Stoics don't avoid emotions. They train to move through them with clarity, not chaos. Here's how you can practice this. Next time you feel heartache creeping in, ask yourself, what's within my control right now? Your thoughts, your actions, your perspective. Maybe you can't stop the pain, but you can refuse to let it define you. Journal about it. Reflect on what the experience reveals about your strengths, your growth edges, even your capacity to love deeply. Because here's the truth Stoics knew: resilience isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to rise again and again with wisdom as your compass. And this resilience naturally leads us to another powerful tool, one that transforms how we communicate in love now. Let's turn our attention to the power of words, because how we speak in love can build bridges or burn them down. Stoics like Seneca knew this well. In his letters, he warned against careless speech, urging us to choose words with the same precision as a surgeon wielding a scalpel. Every sentence should serve a purpose: to uplift, to understand, or to speak truth with kindness. Think about gossip for a moment. It might feel harmless to vent about your partner to friends, but Stoics saw it as a poison, one that erodes trust and distorts reality. Seneca wrote that spreading rumors or harsh criticisms doesn't just hurt others, it weakens your own character. Instead, he practiced what he called brief and beneficial speech. No flattery, no cruelty, just clarity. Here's how this mindset transforms relationships. When conflict arises, pause. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If it fails even one of those tests, reconsider. Stoic communication isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about channeling them constructively. For example, instead of snapping, "You never listen," try, "I feel unheard when we talk over each other. Can we find a better way?" Seneca's letters reveal another gem: silence as a superpower. Sometimes the most stoic response is to say nothing, especially when anger tempts you to lash out. He described silence as a fortress, protecting both your peace and the relationship's integrity. And when we master this art of purposeful speech, we're ready for the next challenge, embracing discomfort to deepen our connections. Now, let's explore a mindset that might seem counterintuitive at first: choosing discomfort to strengthen love. The Stoics believed that deliberately embracing small hardships wasn't about suffering for its own sake, but about training ourselves to appreciate what we have and build resilience. Think of it like a muscle. The more you challenge it, the stronger it becomes. Take digital detoxes, for example. In a world where screens often distract us from real connection, try setting aside one evening a week where you and your partner put away phones and devices. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, maybe even awkward, to sit without that crutch, but this voluntary discomfort creates space for deeper conversations, eye contact, and presence. The Stoics would call this an exercise in mastering your attention, redirecting it from trivial distractions to what truly matters: the person in front of you. Another practice: swap convenience for effort occasionally. Cook a meal together from scratch instead of ordering takeout. Take a walk in the cold instead of staying cozy indoors. These small acts mirror the Stoic tradition of asceticism, not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself that joy isn't dependent on constant comfort. When you willingly step into mild discomfort, you prove to yourself that love isn't about perfect conditions. It thrives in the raw, unfiltered moments. The beauty of this mindset is how it transforms ordinary routines into opportunities for gratitude. After a week without late-night scrolling, you might notice how much richer those device-free evenings feel. Or after braving the cold for a walk, you return home appreciating warmth and each other more deeply. And as we learn to embrace these small challenges, we prepare ourselves for the next mindset: judging less and understanding more. Now, let's shift our focus to a mindset that can transform how we navigate misunderstandings in love: judging less and understanding more. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, had a simple but profound habit. He chose to assume the best in others, even when their actions seemed questionable. He believed that most people aren't acting out of malice, but out of ignorance or their own struggles. This mindset isn't about being naive, it's about giving love the benefit of the doubt. Think about the last time your partner said something that rubbed you the wrong way. Maybe they forgot an important date or snapped at you after a long day. It's easy to jump to conclusions, to assume they don't care or are being selfish. But the Stoic approach asks us to pause and consider, what if they're just tired? What if they're carrying a burden you don't see? By assuming good intentions, we create space for empathy instead of resentment. This doesn't mean ignoring real issues or letting hurtful behavior slide. It means starting the conversation from a place of curiosity rather than accusation. Instead of saying, "You always ignore me," try, "I noticed you seemed distant today. Is everything okay?" That small shift can turn a potential argument into a moment of connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we're all part of the same human family, flawed and trying our best. When we remember that, even frustrations become opportunities to deepen understanding. Practice this by reframing one annoyance this week. When your partner does something that irks you, ask yourself, what's a kinder explanation? Maybe their lateness isn't disrespect, it's traffic or a last-minute work call. This habit doesn't just soften conflicts, it trains us to see love as a collaboration, not a courtroom. And as we learn to replace judgment with curiosity, we naturally move toward the next mindset, love as a daily practice. Now, let's explore how love thrives not in grand declarations but in the quiet, everyday moments, because Stoicism teaches us that love is a daily practice. Think of it like building physical strength. You wouldn't expect one marathon to make you fit for life, right? Love works the same way. It's the small, consistent acts like a morning text to say, "I'm thinking of you," or washing the dishes without being asked, that fortify a relationship over time. Marcus Aurelius didn't become wise by reading philosophy once. He journaled daily, reflected on his actions, and course-corrected. Apply that to love. Instead of waiting for anniversaries to show appreciation, ask yourself each morning, what's one small way I can make my partner's day better? Maybe it's making their coffee just how they like it, or truly listening when they vent about work. These tiny gestures compound like interest in a Stoic savings account. Here's the key: consistency beats intensity. A single weekend getaway won't offset months of neglect. But 5 minutes of undivided attention every evening, that builds trust. The Stoics called this ascesis, disciplined practice. Love isn't a feeling you passively experience, it's a verb, something you do. Even on days you don't feel it, showing up matters. Try this challenge for 1 week. Perform one intentional act of kindness daily, no fanfare needed. Notice how it shifts your mindset, because when love becomes a habit, you're not just maintaining a relationship, you're mastering the art of connection. And as we embrace these daily rituals, we prepare ourselves for the next mindset, holding things loosely now. Let's shift our focus to something that might feel counterintuitive at first, holding love lightly. The Stoics remind us that clinging too tightly to material gifts or romantic milestones can actually weaken a relationship. Think about it. Society bombards us with images of perfect proposals, extravagant anniversaries, and grand gestures. But Stoicism asks, what if the real strength lies in letting go? Consider this. When you tie your happiness to external markers like the size of a diamond ring or the Instagram worthiness of a date, you hand over your peace to things you can't fully control. Epictetus put it bluntly, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Apply that to love. A partner's actions, societal expectations, even the longevity of a relationship, none of these are entirely up to you, but your ability to appreciate what you have without demanding it stay forever unchanged. That's where real resilience grows. Here's the contrast. Modern culture often equates love with possession. We talk about my partner, my happiness, as if people were objects to own. The Stoics, though, saw love as a garden. You tend to it, but you don't uproot the flowers to keep them from wilting. Musonius Rufus taught that marriage should be a partnership of shared life and mutual care, not ownership. When you hold loosely, you create space for gratitude instead of greed, for presence instead of pressure. Try this reframe. Next time you feel anxious about a missed milestone or a less than perfect gift, ask yourself, is this about love or about my ego? Because Stoic love isn't measured in grand gestures, it's found in the quiet freedom of accepting imperfection. And as we loosen our grip, we make room for the next mindset, turning envy into something far more powerful. Now, let's explore a mindset that transforms one of love's trickiest emotions into fuel for growth. Envy, that sharp sting when someone else seems to have the relationship, the passion, or the connection we crave, can either poison us or propel us forward. The Stoics chose the latter. Here's how it works. Envy, at its core, is a signal. It points to what we desire but feel we lack. Instead of resenting others for having it, Stoicism teaches us to ask, what can I learn from this? Imagine your friend has a partner who's endlessly supportive. Rather than spiraling into comparison, ask yourself, what qualities make their bond strong? How can I cultivate those virtues in my own relationships? This shift from jealousy to emulation turns pain into progress. Marcus Aurelius modeled this brilliantly. He kept a journal of admired traits in others, not to brood over what he lacked, but to adopt those strengths himself. The best revenge, he wrote, is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. In love, that means replacing bitter envy with honest self-reflection. If you envy a couple's communication, practice active listening. If you covet their adventures, plan meaningful moments with your partner. The key is to focus on the substance behind what you envy, not the surface. Social media, for instance, peddles highlight reels, staged kisses, curated vacations, while Stoics seek the quiet discipline behind lasting love. Epictetus warned, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. In other words, channel that restless energy into becoming someone worthy of the love you admire. So next time envy flares up, pause. See it as a mirror, not a threat. Ask, what can this teach me about my own growth? Because when we stop competing and start improving, we open the door to deeper connections. And that's where the next mindset begins now. Let's shift to a mindset that might seem counterintuitive at first, the power of silence. In the heat of an argument, our instincts often push us to defend, explain, or even attack. But Stoicism teaches us that sometimes the strongest response is saying nothing at all. Think about the last time you were in a heated discussion with your partner. Words flew, tempers flared, and before you knew it, the argument spiraled into something far bigger than the original issue. The Stoics recognized this pattern centuries ago. Seneca put it bluntly, speech is the mirror of the mind. When emotions run high, our words often reflect chaos rather than clarity. That's where silence becomes a superpower. Here's how to use it wisely. First, practice the pause. When tension rises, take a deliberate breath before responding. This isn't about shutting down or giving the cold shoulder. It's about creating space to choose your words with intention. Epictetus advised, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. In love, listening deeply often diffuses conflict faster than any rebuttal. Next, distinguish between productive dialogue and pointless noise. Not every disagreement needs a winner. Sometimes staying silent isn't surrender, it's strategy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. By refusing to escalate, you model emotional control, which often inspires your partner to mirror that calm. Try this technique during a disagreement. Count to 5 silently before speaking. Use those seconds to ask yourself, will this response build understanding or just my ego? Stoic silence isn't passive, it's an active choice to prioritize peace over pride. And remember, silence isn't just for conflicts, it's also a gift in moments of vulnerability. When your partner shares pain, sometimes the most loving response is quiet presence, not solutions. As the Stoics showed, mastering when to speak and when not to can transform not just arguments but the entire quality of your connection. This mindset naturally leads us to the next one, where we'll explore how to love without keeping score. Now, let's turn to a mindset that challenges the way many of us approach love, the idea of loving without expectation. In a world where relationships often feel like exchanges, "I'll do this if you do that," Stoicism offers a radical alternative. Seneca once wrote, "The reward of a virtuous act is to have done it." In other words, true love isn't a transaction, it's a choice to give freely without keeping score. Think about the last time you did something kind for your partner. Did you catch yourself waiting for gratitude or expecting something in return? That's the trap of transactional love. The Stoics believed that virtue like kindness, patience, or forgiveness is its own reward. When you act out of love, the joy should come from the act itself, not the reaction it might bring. Here's how this plays out in real life. Imagine your partner has had a long, exhausting day. You surprise them with their favorite meal, not because you want praise or a favor in return, but simply because you want to ease their burden. That's love without expectation. Or consider forgiveness, letting go of a grudge, not because your partner apologized, but because holding on to anger harms your own peace. Seneca called this the art of living well, where your actions align with your values, not your desires. Transactional love creates tension, selfless love builds trust. When you stop keeping score, you free yourself from resentment and open the door to deeper connection. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that the highest form of love is giving without condition, just as nature gives sunlight or rain without demanding thanks. Try this shift in perspective. Next time you do something loving, ask yourself, am I doing this to receive or to give? The answer might surprise you. When love becomes its own reward, every act, big or small, becomes a reflection of your character, not a bargaining chip. This mindset naturally leads us to the next one, where we'll explore how embracing impermanence can deepen your appreciation for the love you have today. Now, let's explore a mindset that might feel uncomfortable at first, but holds profound wisdom: the idea of embracing impermanence in love. The Stoics saw the world as constantly changing, and relationships are no exception. Instead of resisting this truth, they taught us to see the beauty in it. Think about how a relationship evolves over time. The fiery passion of early love often mellows into something deeper, a steady companionship built on trust and shared history. Society sometimes paints this shift as a loss, but Stoicism flips the script. It's not a downgrade, it's a transformation, like a leaf turning from green to gold. Everything in nature changes, and love is no different. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." When we cling to how love used to be, the butterflies, the late-night conversations, the intensity, we set ourselves up for suffering. But when we accept that love, like a river, is meant to flow and reshape itself, we find peace in every season of a relationship. Here's how to practice this mindset. First, notice when you're comparing your present relationship to the past. Maybe you miss the excitement of early days, but do you also appreciate the comfort of knowing someone deeply? Second, reframe loss as growth. That quiet evening cooking together might not have the drama of a first date, but it holds its own kind of magic, the kind that comes from time and trust. The Stoics called this Amor Fati, loving your fate. It's about cherishing what love becomes, not mourning what it leaves behind. When you stop fighting impermanence, you start seeing the poetry in every phase. The laughter that replaces the flirting, Chinese letter that replaces the uncertainty, it's all part of the story. So next time you feel nostalgia creeping in, ask yourself, what's beautiful about this chapter that wasn't possible in the last one? The answer might just help you fall in love with the present all over again. And this brings us to our next mindset, where we'll see how leading by example in love can transform not just your relationship but your own character. Now, let's shift our focus to a mindset that turns love into a mirror for our own growth, leading by example. Stoicism teaches us that the most powerful way to inspire virtue in others is to embody it ourselves. Instead of waiting for a partner to be more patient or honest, the Stoic asks, how can I be those things first? Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. When you choose patience during a heated argument or honesty when it's easier to hide the truth, you're not just improving the relationship, you're strengthening your own character. And here's the secret, people tend to reflect the energy we put out. A partner who sees you handling stress with calm is more likely to respond in kind. Think of it like lighting a candle. You don't demand that another candle ignite first. You simply bring your own flame close enough to spark theirs. Stoic love works the same way. If you want more kindness in your relationship, practice kindness relentlessly. If you crave deeper trust, be impeccably trustworthy. The virtues you cultivate don't just benefit you, they create ripples. Seneca put it bluntly, you must live as you wish your partner to live. That means if you value forgiveness, be quick to forgive. If you admire generosity, give freely without keeping score. Love becomes a classroom where both partners are both student and teacher, growing together through action, not expectation. So today, pick one virtue you'd like to see more of in your relationship and commit to modeling it. Notice how shifting the focus from their behavior to your choices changes the dynamic, because in the end, the best way to lead in love isn't with words but with the quiet power of example. And this sets the stage for our next mindset, where we'll explore how Stoicism turns even the hardest moments like forgiveness into opportunities for deeper connection. Now let's move into one of the most liberating Stoic practices, forgiveness as a path to inner peace. Marcus Aurelius had a simple but profound habit. He refused to let grudges take root in his mind. In his writings, he often reminded himself that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Stoics understood that forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior, it's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. Think of a time someone hurt you, maybe a partner forgot an important date or a careless word left a wound. The Stoic approach asks, does clinging to this pain serve me? More often than not, the answer is no. Resentment clouds judgment, drains energy, and here's the key, changes nothing about the past but forgiveness. That shifts everything. It's not weakness, it's the ultimate act of self-command. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In other words, respond to pettiness with grace, to betrayal with dignity. This doesn't mean you ignore boundaries or tolerate repeated harm. It means you refuse to let someone else's actions dictate your inner peace. Picture resentment as a heavy rock you've been carrying. Forgiveness is the moment you finally set it down. Here's how to practice Stoic forgiveness. First, pause and ask, what part of this is within my control? You can't undo what happened, but you can choose how long it haunts you. Next, separate the act from the person. As Epictetus taught, people often harm others out of ignorance, not malice. Finally, focus on the lesson. Every hurt carries a gift, an opportunity to practice patience, empathy, or assertiveness. Imagine your mind as a clear, still pond. Resentment is the pebble that distorts the surface. Forgiveness lets the ripples fade so you can see clearly again. That's why Stoics prized mental clarity above all. It's the foundation of wise decisions, healthy relationships, and yes, deeper love. And this leads us perfectly to our next mindset, where we'll uncover how Stoics transform heartbreak into wisdom. because even pain can become a teacher when we approach it with the right perspective. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most transformative Stoic practices, finding the lesson in pain. The Stoics didn't just endure suffering, they studied it. Seneca, who faced exile and personal tragedies, wrote that hardship is the best teacher if we're willing to listen. He believed that every loss, every heartbreak carries a hidden curriculum, one that strengthens our resilience and deepens our understanding of love. Think of emotional pain like a blacksmith's forge. The heat is unbearable in the moment, but it's what shapes the metal into something stronger. When a relationship ends or trust is broken, the Stoic question isn't "Why did this happen to me?" but "What can this reveal to me?" Maybe it teaches you the value of clear communication or reveals an unhealthy pattern you've ignored. Perhaps it strengthens your ability to stand alone before standing with someone else. Seneca's letters are filled with this mindset. After losing a dear friend, he didn't drown in grief, he examined it. He wrote about how loss reminds us to cherish the present, how betrayal clarifies who truly deserves our trust. Even in his darkest moments, he looked for the wisdom hidden in the wound. That's the Stoic way, to treat pain not as an enemy but as a mentor. Here's how to apply this mindset. First, when hurt strikes, pause and ask, "What is this trying to show me?" Second, journal your reflections. Write down what the experience revealed about your boundaries, your needs, or your growth areas. Third, share the lesson. Stoics believed wisdom is worthless if kept to yourself. Tell a friend what you've learned, turning your pain into someone else's guide. Imagine your heart as a book. Every chapter of sorrow adds depth to the story, making you wiser for the next one. That's why Stoics didn't fear pain, they respected its power to transform. And when we stop resisting the lesson, we start growing from it. This brings us to our next mindset, where we'll explore how Stoics balance passion and reason, because love isn't about shutting down emotions, but guiding them with wisdom. Now, let's explore the delicate dance between passion and reason, a balance the Stoics mastered in love. They never saw emotions as the enemy, but they also didn't let them steer the ship unchecked. Think of it like sailing. Passion is the wind, powerful and necessary, but reason is the rudder. Without both, you're either adrift or stuck on shore. Marcus Aurelius, despite his deep love for his wife, often reminded himself that affection must be guided by wisdom. He wrote about holding his family as a mortal, not as if they were eternal, cherishing them fully, yet without the desperation of clinging. That's the Stoic secret: love fiercely but with clear eyes. Here's how this plays out in real relationships. When jealousy flares, pause. Ask, is this feeling based on a real threat, or is it my insecurity speaking? When excitement sweeps you into grand gestures, check, am I doing this for them or for the thrill of being seen as romantic? Stoics call this prosach, mindful attention to your impulses before they become actions. Seneca warned against two extremes: the coldness of suppressing love and the chaos of letting it rule you. He compared unbalanced passion to a runaway horse, while reason without warmth was like a statue, lifeless. The middle path, love that's vibrant but intentional, like a fire contained in a hearth. It warms without burning everything down. To practice this, try the pause and weigh method. When emotions surge, take a breath. Imagine your feelings on one side of a scale and logic on the other. Let them balance before you speak or act. Over time, this becomes second nature, a way to honor your heart without ignoring your head, because true Stoic love isn't about dimming your fire. It's about tending it wisely so it lasts. And this leads us to our next mindset, where we'll confront a trap we all fall into: idealizing our partners instead of loving who they truly are. Now, let's tackle a mindset that might sting a little, but only because it's so painfully true. The Stoics knew that one of the quickest ways to sabotage love is to fall for an illusion instead of a person. Epictetus put it bluntly: we don't suffer because of the people in our lives, but because of the stories we tell ourselves about them. Think about it. How often do we project fantasies onto our partners, expecting them to be endlessly patient, perpetually romantic, or perfectly aligned with our every need? That's not love, that's casting someone in a role they never auditioned for. The Stoic remedy: strip away the script, see your partner as they are, not as you wish they'd be. Epictetus called this the discipline of desire, training yourself to want what's real, not what's idealized. He used a simple analogy: if you buy a clay cup, don't rage when it breaks. You knew its nature from the start. The same goes for people. Every human comes with flaws, moods, and contradictions. Love them for those edges, not in spite of them. Here's how to practice this. Next time you feel disappointed by your partner, ask, is this their failing or my unrealistic expectation? Maybe they forgot your anniversary, but did you assume they'd remember rather than communicating what it meant to you? Stoicism teaches that resentment often grows in the gap between reality and our unspoken demands. This doesn't mean settling for less, it means loving more clearly. When you release the fantasy, you create space to appreciate the actual person, their quirks, their efforts, their humanity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape living among the insane. And what's more insane than punishing someone for failing to live up to a version of them that only exists in your head? So let's close with a challenge. For 1 week, catch yourself every time you idealize your partner. Thank them for what they do give, not what you wish they would. That's Stoic love, clear-eyed, generous, and fiercely real. And this brings us to our final mindset, one that stretches beyond the relationship itself, asking how the love you cultivate today can ripple outward, leaving a legacy far greater than you might imagine. Now let's step back and consider the bigger picture, because Stoic love isn't just about what happens between two people. It's about the mark you leave on the world through how you love. This is Mindset 25, leave a legacy of love. The Stoics believed that every action, especially love, sends ripples far beyond the moment. When you choose patience over anger, kindness over pettiness, or forgiveness over resentment, you're not just improving your relationship, you're modeling a way of being that can inspire others. Think of it like a stone dropped into water. The way you treat your partner doesn't stop with them. It influences how they treat others, how your friends view love, even how your children or future generations will approach their own relationships. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." He wasn't just talking about grand achievements. He meant the daily, quiet acts of love that shape the world around us. Here's the Stoic challenge. Ask yourself, what kind of love do I want to be remembered for? Not in a dramatic, monumental sense, but in the small, consistent choices: listening when you're tired, apologizing when you're wrong, showing up even when it's inconvenient. These are the moments that build a legacy, and here's the beautiful paradox. The more you focus on loving well rather than just being loved, the more profound your impact becomes. Seneca put it this way: wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. That's the Stoic secret. Love isn't a closed loop between you and your partner. It's an open door, inviting others to walk through it and carry its light forward. So as we close these 25 mindsets, remember this: the love you practice today isn't just for you. It's a gift to the future, one that outlasts arguments, distance, even lifetimes. And that is how Stoics lead in love, by planting seeds whose shade they may never sit under, but whose fruit will nourish generations to come. Now, let's take everything we've explored and put it into action. Over the next week, pick one of these mindsets to practice, whether it's loving without expectation, seeing your partner as a mirror, or leaving your own legacy of love. Start small, but start today, because as the Stoics knew, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time right now. And if this journey through Stoic love resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it. Hit subscribe for more wisdom that turns philosophy into daily practice. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Keep leading with love, and let's grow stronger together. And with that, we've walked through all 25 Stoic mindsets to lead in love, from choosing love as a daily action to leaving a legacy that outlives us. Each one is a tool not just for stronger relationships, but for a life lived with purpose and resilience. So here's your invitation. Don't let this stay theoretical. Pick one mindset, whether it's embracing obstacles as opportunities, practicing forgiveness, or loving without attachment, and weave it into your week. Start small. Notice how it shifts your perspective, your conversations, even your quietest moments. Because here's the truth Stoics understood: love isn't just something we feel. It's something we do, and every time we act from virtue, we don't just change our relationships, we change ourselves. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Let that be your compass. If these ideas sparked something in you, keep the flame alive. Hit subscribe for more wisdom that turns ancient philosophy into modern strength. Share this with someone who's navigating their own journey in love, because the best lessons are the ones we pass on. And remember, growth isn't about perfection. It's about showing up again and again with intention. So take a breath, pick your mindset, and begin. The Stoics would remind you the time to act is now. And we're right here with you, learning as we go. Until next time, keep leading with love.